Hello, my name is Hakon, and today I will say a little bit about placing audio in a stereo field. When you're doing music production, any kind of audio production for video or anything really, games as well, of course, um, you sometimes need to place an audio source very precisely in a stereo field. For music production, you do it to sort of give a certain separation of audio sources, to sort of give people a full sort of stereo field image. You feel the musicians are in different places around you. And the traditional way of doing this, since stereo or fake stereo really was invented, is to use the panning and volume controls in your studio setting, whether it's a digital audio workstation like we use these days, or in your normal studio with your knobs and sliders. So I'll just demonstrate that first of all today using an ancient and noisy little microphone that I got with my reel-to-reel player. So I'll just show that. So okay, so here I'll just start the recording. Oh, that's not the right place. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to start at the beginning of the track and push record. Okay, so now I am recording my voice here in this little noisy microphone, and I'm recording the output of the recording, not the input, so I can show you the effect of different things on the sound. So first of all, let's imagine I want to pan my sound so it sounds like it's coming from the left or the right. I would use the pan control here. Now it's at center, and I could pan it off to the left like this. Left, 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 all the way to the left. And I can pan it off to the right like this, all the way to the right. And if I want to make it seem like it comes from further away, I can reduce the volume like this and reduce it so much you can hardly hear me probably. And then I'll increase it again like this. And maybe if I seem to come a little bit closer, I could increase the volume beyond 0 and go louder and louder and louder like this. Okay, back to 0 there. Okay, so what's the problem with this? The problem with this is that I'll just remove my earphones for a moment. The problem with this is it only affects one single aspect of how we perceive the distance and location of the sound. Volume. That's the only thing it changes, is volume. Panning is simply a way to reduce the volume of one channel so that the relative volume between the channels changes. And the same with just the pure volume control of a channel. You just reduce the volume and increase the volume. But when we perceive direction and distance to a sound, there are at least two other major aspects of how that works that affects how we perceive it. For instance, if a sound comes off from the left, it will of course be louder to the left ear, but it will also get to the left ear sooner than the right ear. The difference is significant. It's detectable by our ears, because this is one of the reasons we have two ears. It's not just to do the relative loudness. You can also perceive the difference in timing. And the third thing that also happens is the frequencies of the sound are different. It's like you put an equalizing setting on the signal getting to the other ear, or this different equalizing settings. Just by virtue of coming from different directions, we hear the different frequencies of the sound at different volumes. So the spectrum of the sound also changes. And all these three things together is then processed by our brains, and it turns into a perception of sound coming. Of course, basically, it's not even sound actually. Before it is, technically, it's just pressure waves in the air, and that hit our ears, and then it's processed into our brains, and we think of it and perceive it as sound. So all these things together give us an impression of where a sound comes from and how far away it is. And also if it's up or down as well, and not just direction. It's in 3 dimensions. It's not just around our ears. Now the thing is, if you have speakers, you may only sort of hear from a sort of 45-degree arc, or sorry, 90-degree arc in front of you, and that's your stereo field. But of course, combined with that, you have the reflections of your room. And of course, people these days, they often have surround sound systems. And if you're wearing headphones, you can actually hear very well in 3 dimensions all around your head, especially if you have sound processing that creates the right sort of acoustic differences between the ears to give the impression of where a sound comes from. Now, so for professional audio production, like movies, big Hollywood movies productions, for instance, you have these plugins that cost thousands of pounds that are absolutely amazing at placing sounds very accurately, and you can create motion with them, Doppler effects, uh, anything like that, and put lots of filters on them as if they're in different environments. But for people sitting at home, working in their home studios or just on a laptop or whatever, and they're doing this on the cheap, and you really want to increase the audio separation of your soundtracks and your audio production for video, there are 2 plugins I'm going to show you today that are actually free, which is brilliant, because we like free things. And not only are they free, they actually work really well as well. So I'll just show them to you now, and I'll demonstrate how they work. I'll just put my earphones in again. So the first one I'll show you is the one that places the sound in the stereo field. Actually, not just in the stereo field, it places it in 3 dimensions around your head. This is actually part of, it's called Ambio by Sennheiser, Ambio Orbit. And of course, it is made specifically to work with sort of ambisonics, which has to do with environmental audio and how an audio that can be in 3 dimensions. And also you have these systems where you have a sensor on your headset that detects how your head moves, and the sound can move with it. It's an audio format that's used in games, virtual reality, etc. But even if you're just using it for normal stereo production, this is extremely useful, and I'll show you why. So now it's actually it's not entirely in the middle now. So I'll engage this now. Okay, immediately you hear the sound changes a little bit as the filters of Ambio kicks in, and maybe it feels like my sound is already a bit more 3 dimensional now, even though it doesn't have a stereo spread. Now, in this one, I can try moving, and of course for this bit, if you're wearing headphones, you really should be wearing headphones for this. So I can move where the sound is coming from, and now I'm just rotating it around the head, and as you can see, or hear rather, this is a lot more precise. Now it's coming from the back as well, and entirely from the back. And of course you can't do that with the panning controls. The panning stops at left and right, and it can rotate around my head like so. Now it's straight off to the right and coming to the front again, and there we go, full circle. In addition to that, you can add width, and it shows in the plugin how wide the field is now, and of course it makes even this mono source seem a little bit more 3 dimensional, and of course if you increase the width entirely like that, it doesn't have as precise a location, but it seems a lot, it increases the stereo effect of the sound. So if I just go back to 0 on width again and for placement, so you can also increase elevation, so higher up like so, it's a little bit more subtle, and going down as well, so it can be, you have something that's behind you and below you like so, it's possible. The up and down effects are not as well on my ears anyway. It doesn't make as big a difference as the azimuth, the location around your head. This plugin also has a reverb thing for natural sound reflections in the room, and oh, my earphones are falling out now, which of course can add to sort of realistic sound if you want to do audio production for, that's not just music but just sounds in an environment. So it's quite basic, but it's really a powerful plugin and it works really well. So, and it is free. So the second one I'm showing you is called Proximity, and I'll just keep, maybe I'll keep both of them running. Now, the thing about proximity is how when sounds are further away or closer, just like when you have them from different directions, different frequencies are attenuated or amplified, relatively speaking. And so when sounds are further away, the high frequencies tend to go, and of course the volume goes down as well. And when it's closer, and it's really, really close, if you can actually, it's like you're feeling how close it is now. The high frequencies are a little bit stronger, and it's almost like even though yeah, it's almost like I'm whispering in your ear now, probably. So, and this also really works. Actually, you don't need to use the full range here, but so yeah, this also has lots of other settings. I haven't actually looked into them yet, and I can see you can also do the left and right channels separately, which means I presume you can get some kind of 3D placement as well here. But I like using both of these plugins. This one just for the distance, and this one for the accurate location of the sound. It's almost freaky sometimes how that sounds when you get it coming from a different direction, and so precisely as well. So there we are. So those two plugins, highly recommend. Proximity is who is it by again? I'll get links to it and I'll put it down in the description of the video anyway. So yeah. Right. So those are the two things I wanted to show you today, and I hope you found that useful. I certainly found those two plugins really useful when I found them. Proximity I only found recently, or Ambio Orbit I've been using for quite some time, and it's just a really nice set of tools for free to have in your audio production. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time for whatever video I'm making next, and goodbye for now. Bye bye.